conversation we've been having throughout the program this morning has been about whether or not you should leave your money to your kids in your will. Because I came across an article last week about a gentleman who had decided that actually he doesn't want to do that. That's not something that he wants to do. And I thought it was quite interesting because I had previously read kind of an advice column. I'm subscribed to a writer in America who does an advice column, okay? So she then emails every month the question she's been asked with the answer. So obviously it's all manner of things. And a couple of weeks ago, she sent round an email, and the advice that was given was, the question that was given was all about inheritance, and a brother and a sister who were annoyed that their parents were leaving the bulk of their wealth to charities and not to them. And I found that really interesting. I was quite shocked. I was quite affronted by it, that someone was actively offended that their parents weren't leaving their wealth to them. And of course my first reaction was, God, I think they might be a bit of a brat. You know, that's what I first thought. I thought, oh my God, how are these two people complaining that their parents are giving money away to charities, to people who need help and support? And how is that something that they are upset about? So I found it quite interesting, and then I started thinking about what I thought about it. And truth be told, I thought, God, if my parents had any money, I would love them to spend it. I would hate it if they kept it and put it in some trust for me. I wouldn't want that. I'd want them to enjoy life while they had it. But it's obviously a topic that some people have thought lots about, and it's a topic that can be quite contentious because this gentleman who I came across as well, he's not having it. He is not leaving his considerable wealth to his kids. Instead, he has decided to leave something else. He's decided to leave his knowledge. Now, I want you to tell me whether you think this is right or not. Should your kids have all of your fortune and your wealth when you die? Should you leave it to them in their will? 85058 on the text, or I'd love to talk to you about it. 08085 909 693. Because Siam Kidd doesn't agree with that. He thinks trust fund babies lack skills and drive. Instead, he has set out strict rules that, instead of just giving his kids money, is going to help them appreciate the value of money.
The stats give a pretty scary picture. So a lot of trust fund babies have high levels of depression and also suicide. And I think that's, it's studies are showing that it's because they have no real sort of purpose in life. They've never had to earn anything. There's no real sort of value for money. And I think one of the best things that my parents ever gave me was the visual struggle. So my parents were not rich, and literally all throughout my childhood, all my parents ever did was just work. And I think that instilled sort of a good work ethic in me, and therefore I've had to, I've gone through the University of Hard Knocks, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've done okay. And I think if I was to just leave everything to the kids, I'd be depriving them of that experience.
Okay. I mean, they do say you need something to push against, the challenges. I think at least my mum told me it was character building, but I don't know how well it did for my character to be, cleaning the bog out every single week. But, character building was what I was told. So, Sam, tell me a little bit about kind of what you have done and what you've done in business, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. So I used to be an Air Force pilot, and then I left to be a full-time trader. So I've been trading since I was 18, and then got into business about 12, 13 years ago. And so, I trade full-time, and I've got a few groups of businesses. So the thing is, whatever I'm worth when I die, let's say me and my wife go, I just don't want all of that to land on my kids. I've got 2 kids, inheritance, so to speak. And so I created a thing called the Wealth Action Plan. So in 2018, I sat down, had a bit of a midlife crisis, and I wrote out everything I knew about money and business and whatnot. And that came to like 400,000 words.
Wow.
And then, yeah, so I just didn't want them to sort of miss out. So before they do anything, part of that will is that they have to complete the WAP. And
the Will Action
400,000 words. The Wealth Action Plan.
Oh, sorry, the Wealth Action Plan, which you're nicknaming the WAP. I'd be careful with that. You know, that is a well-known song. It means something completely different, Siam. I don't know if you want to use that abbreviation.
Yeah. my WAP was here first.
Okay. There's only one thing I think of when you keep saying WAP, but I'm gonna try and focus on the action plan. Got it. Okay. So basically, you took all of the things that you know about business, everything that you've learned, you wrote it all down. It turns out it comes to 400,000 words, if not more, and so you turned it into a course that your children have to complete if they ever want to access any money. God forbid anything happens to you and your wife.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be teaching them this as they grow up. Won't be getting any inheritance. So if one of them decides to go down the business route, they can have access to some, a commercial loan of some sort, let's say, I don't know, 50 grand, but only if they've done the WAP and have demonstrated that, they understand stuff. But my wealth will be in a charity or a foundation. And the thing is, people that don't have are empirically really bad at handling money and also running charities, like as in doing things properly. So in order to manage, as in my own foundation, they'll have to have set up, run, grown and sold a business for 7 figures. So that was one of the mandates I have put in place.
So if they want to access any of that wealth, then they have to set up, successfully run a 7-figure business, and that's one of the clauses.
No, they will not get any access to it whatsoever. So my foundation will be for actual charity.
Got it.
Yeah, but there needs to be a good steward managing that, because a lot of charities are a bit of a farce, to be honest. Some charities only 20p in the pound actually get to the actual cause.
Right.
There's a big difference between perceived philanthropy and actual philanthropy. So, and so if there's a big pot of money that is there to be used to do good stuff, it needs to, the steward, whoever it may be, whether it's my kids or some random person, they need to be well versed in business. And I think the only way you can get that is to go through the motions of set up, run, grow, and exit.
Right. Okay. So I just want to make sure, Siam, that I understand it all properly. And it sounds to me like you see your wealth and your money there for the greater good, of something that has purpose, as opposed to something that is just handed out amongst your children and your family members.
Yeah. I sort of see money a bit differently these days. So when I left the Air Force, I actually was broke for a good year or so. And obviously there was a time where, I did obsess about, gaining wealth and, getting on my feet, so to speak. But the way I look at things now is that money is just an inanimate object. It's no different than a chair or a table. It's how people act around it, which is where people do funny things. And so I see money now as simply just an enabling resource. So it shouldn't be there to be hoarded and just sat in a bank forever, because that's just wasted capital. It's wasted energy, because money is really, it's just crystallized work times time. So yeah, that's really what it is. That's all money is. It's work times time. Okay. And so yeah, if you've got a big pot of money, you should deploy it, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I can totally understand your perspective. Might be unpopular amongst some people who believe that actually, it all should stay in the family and it should be handed down. But I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So
Yeah.
you've put the course together, you've put all your knowledge on paper. You're going to pass that on to your children, and of course you're going to pass that on, when you're alive, hopefully, and work with them and help them, of course. But what then? They have to complete this course, but what does that look like when they do? And if they meet the clauses of everything that you've designated in your will, I suppose, and it sounds callous, and I don't mean it in this way, but what do they get at the end?
Sure.
Get at the end of that?
Or no money. I mean, they'll be able to access a loan, but again, they'll have to pay commercial rates. So I don't know, whatever, 10% or whatever, base rate plus X. But I think the real value of my inheritance is not the money; it's the ability, it's the knowledge, really. And also, if they've actually implemented the things in the Wealth Action Plan, then they'll know how to create money themselves.
Okay.
How
old are your
I think
children?
that's a real gift. 5 and 7. So hopefully this is a moot point.
Yes,
Never happened.
Yes, absolutely. Touch wood. I'm banging on the desk here. So your kids are 5 and 7. Daughters, sons?
2 sons.
2 sons. Can I put a hypothetical situation to you?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, and take a trip down imagination here with me.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, like God forbid, awful, touch wood, something happens, and you and your wife are no longer about, and one of your sons, again, God forbid, touch wood, I don't know, falls into depression, is really struggling, I don't know, needs an operation, needs healthcare, needs a procedure. There is a huge pot of money that has been sitting there that you made, that's your wealth, and he can't access that. Is there any provisions in which if your sons are struggling, they're on hard times, and I really like what you said about money is just this object and it's how people act around it. I like that. Philosophically, I'm with you, Siam, but money also will put a roof over my head and will keep the heating on and keep me warm and healthier and allow me to buy healthier products that will hopefully, make me live longer and access to great healthcare, etc., etc. What if there is, an instance in which one of your sons are struggling and they can't do the course for whatever reason, and they can't access all of that knowledge that you've left to then be successful in business and accrue wealth of their own, and they need a procedure that will help save their lives? What then?
Yeah. Well, so one of the things I've learned in the markets and businesses is the number one. You have to avoid the number one at all costs. So you never want one income stream, one job, one business, one member of staff, one bank account, one anything, because there's huge third-party counter risk there if you have one of anything. And I apply that to the trusts as well. So I do have a trust fund. So I've got a couple. So the one that I talked about, my legacy or my wealth when I die, etc., that will be the main fund, as in the charitable fund. But there are a couple of smaller ones where both my kids are the beneficiaries. So at the moment, I'm the settler and protector of that fund. So if, God forbid, my wife and I are not here, they are still the beneficiaries of a much smaller fund, and that's for literally emergencies.
Right, okay. So they would never be in a situation where they don't have any access to money, I suppose.
No, but not for, to buy cars or anything like that. And I know it does come across as stingy. I know I've got friends that said, God, you're being really stingy, Siam. And what if your kids hate business and money, and they want to be artists and a vet, or or something like that, something non-money related? And fine. I don't want to push them into anything, but I guess as long as they're happy. But the Wealth Action Plan, I mean, it's all in video format now, so I don't think there's any excuse not to. I mean, by the time they're 16, they would have gone through it many times.
Okay.
Whilst they're in my household, at least.
Fair. I mean, your friends raise an interesting point, though. What if one of your sons is going to write the next great British novel, is going to win the Booker Prize, is going to is going to paint the next portrait that hangs in the National Gallery.
Yeah.
Incredible skills, the fabric of our culture that helps people feel and process things and make sense of the world. Art, music, it does that. They could be, in the National Orchestra being the next soprano or the next incredible, I don't know, flute player. It could be anything.
Yeah.
I suppose that does raise an interesting point, because they might not be business minded. They might be hopeless at business and everyday budgeting and making sure they've got enough to pay the groceries, but they could be brilliant the minute they pick up a cello.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and I'm purposely not going to force them into anything. And I think a bit more context will probably help. So, whilst I'm here, I'm trying my best to give them, the best childhood and best education possible. They're both at private schools, so they'll have, lots of opportunities to do things there. But one of the things I'm personally doing is I've got this massive spreadsheet, and I've got this theory, and it's worked well for me, is that if you do 20 hours of focused learning in any topic whatsoever, you'll be better than 95% of the population. So when you look at the standard distribution of the populace and skills, etc., all it takes is 20 hours of focused learning, and you'll be better than, or you'll be technically above average. And so I've got the spreadsheet of every activity you could possibly do, from surfing to climbing to flying to, playing football to, just playing catch. And so with both of the kids, I'm making sure we go through 20 hours of focused learning on every possible thing. So by the time they're 16 or 18, hopefully they would have experienced every activity under the sun. And maybe they'll have an affinity to something, whether, like you said, it's the cello or knitting or whatever. But yes, they may be obsessed with one thing for 5 to 10 years, but probably most likely by the time they get to 25, 35, etc., they'll probably be a bit more money focused, and they can always lean back on the wealth action plan, and they'll realize, that's what Dad is talking about.
Right, okay. And are you going to at any point tell them about the will and how it works?
Not yet, no. And to be honest, my wife and I, we differ slightly on this. So it's not, at the moment, it's not unanimous.
Okay. So your wife doesn't agree with it?
No, parts of it. She does think I'm being a bit stingy.
Okay. So how do you square that between the two of you and the kids?
Well, it's just an ongoing chat and discussion, really. It's all amicable, obviously, but I just think that I think it does more harm. Let's say I leave, each of them £10 million. Mm-hmm. I think that would do a lot more harm than good. And I know of a lot of people that have got inheritance and wealthy, big chunks of inheritance, and it's just made them lazy. They've done nothing with it. They've actually just blown most of it. So I don't know, I just think I'll be doing them a disservice. I'll be robbing them of being forced into awkward situations where you ultimately want them to be the person that has the skills and the ability to achieve whatever they want to achieve.
There you go. That was Siam Kidd telling us why he has set such stringent conditions in his will for his kids. It's a contentious subject, and I'd love your thoughts on this. We're going to continue the conversation after the news. I'm going to also be hearing from someone who's a partner at a law firm about the legalities of it. So let me know, should you leave the money to the kids in the will? Is that just what parents do? Grandparents do it as well? Is that just a done thing? And this is how we look after those that we love when we're gone. Is that a good argument for it, or actually is it character building? You let me know. 85058 on the text, or the number is 08085 909 693. We'll get into it after the news, but before we do anything else, let's get those latest headlines.